Hey guys, I'm Riley Ott, and in today's video, we will be comparing the physique of Wesley Vissers to Mike Sommerfeld, and I'll also be making some predictions for the 2025 Arnold Classic. Let's start with this direct side-by-side picture of the side chest pose. Now, these pictures are not scaled to size. In real life, Wesley Vissers is 6'2", and I believe Mike Sommerfeld's around 5'9". That's just a rough guess. Looking at these pictures, the biggest flaw and the biggest problem Wesley Vissers is going to have in this competition is Mike Sommerfeld's legs. Wesley Vissers' physique has been widely criticized for the problem of having small legs. As for Mike Sommerfeld, I'd make the argument that his legs might be his best body part. And looking at their upper bodies, I far prefer Wesley Vissers' upper body, but that doesn't mean it's dramatically better than Mike Sommerfeld's. They're very comparable, where the legs is going to be a massive problem. Also realize that the comparisons I'm doing here, I'm comparing Wesley Vissers from the Arnold Classic 2024 to Mike Sommerfeld at the Olympia 2024. Wesley Vissers didn't look that great at the Olympia this year. I believe he placed like 12th or something. Please don't quote me on that because I'm not completely sure. But Mike Sommerfeld placed second at the Classic Physique Olympia. And now that Chris Bumstead is retired, that would make Mike Sommerfeld the best Classic Physique bodybuilder in the world. So looking at the side chest, which one do I think is better? Well, I prefer Wesley Vissers' physique. I do believe the scorecards would show that Mike Sommerfeld would win this pose. You also have to take into consideration that there's quite a few months in between these shows, so Wesley has had more time to make improvements coming into this Arnold Classic than Mike Sommerfeld would have. Next up, let's compare front double bis of these two. Now, in bodybuilding, there is something called the X factor, which just really draws you to a physique and makes you look at it. For Wesley Vissers to be 6'2", an inch taller than Chris Bumstead, and have such a beautiful V-taper is not common in the sport. And also, I would make the argument that Wesley Vissers has dramatically better arms than Mike Sommerfeld. I just feel that Wesley Vissers has such wide clavicles, and his lats are just so wide, it's crazy. So I think even with that difference, despite the legs, I would give the front double bi pose to Wesley Vissers. And by that, I mean I would give Wesley Vissers, in this specific picture, the win over Mike Sommerfeld. At the Olympia, obviously it wasn't even close. Mike Sommerfeld probably beat Wesley Vissers in every single pose. Next up, we got this comparison, which I'm going to assume would have been the favorite Classic pose for the call-out. Arnold Classic Wesley Vissers, man, I mean, his physique was just another level, but that would be why he was able to beat Urs and he was able to beat Ramon at that showing. I believe Breon Ainsley was there, and there was a couple other notable figures in that category that Wesley beat. Now, I could make the argument again and again and again, bringing up the legs of these two athletes, and Mike Sommerfeld's are just so much better, and it shows in almost every single pose. Wesley Vissers' muscle bellies and like the fullness of his muscles is just crazy. I mean, it is just a beautiful physique. And this is just my opinion, this isn't fact, but Wesley Vissers being the two-time champ last year, I do think people go into it giving him the bit of the edge, thinking of him as the favorite. And I do also think because his physique's so reminiscent of Arnold's, that he gets a little bit of favoritism in this specific show. So this specific favorite Classic pose, I'm going to give it to Mike Sommerfeld, but if Wesley Vissers came with bigger legs and the same conditioning as he did last year, I think Wesley Vissers could be a serious threat at this competition. Last up for the Olympia versus Arnold comparisons, we have the most muscular between these two. Now, it needs to be mentioned that most muscular is not a call-out in Classic Physique, so this is not a pose that is judged in the competition, but I think it's a very valuable comparison nevertheless. And looking at all these pictures, I would have thought Mike Sommerfeld's just going to walk away with this. I wouldn't have thought this was even a competition until I look at this comparison. Where, keeping in mind the height difference in these guys, looking at the delts and the chest on Wesley Vissers, his conditioning looks significantly better than Mike's here. Now, both of them posted these pictures on their Instagram, so they think these are good pictures. You wouldn't post a picture you thought you'd look bad in on Instagram, right? At least I wouldn't think so. I do believe that the Arnold Classic has a little bit better lighting than the Olympia, and I do acknowledge that Wesley's kind of bent over so he can push his arms into his chest. But I would say this pose is Wesley Vissers, just due to the conditioning and striation difference, and even vascularity, it looks like, in the arms. They don't judge vascularity. That's not a judging point in bodybuilding, but it definitely adds a certain freak factor to a physique that makes you look over. So now common sense is telling me that Mike Sommerfeld should just walk away with this win because he's the best classic physique bodybuilder in the world. And at the Olympia, Wesley didn't show up. He didn't bring that package he brought to the Arnold. But here we are making this comparison, at least for these 4 pictures, that it's closer than I would have thought. But wait a minute, what if I have a bit of information you did not know? Wesley Vissers and Mike Sommerfeld have competed against each other before, back in 2016 at the Junior Arnold Classic Europe. Now, obviously, these aren't fair comparisons to how they're going to show up in 2025. I mean, there is almost 10 years in between these pictures, but I'd like to take a look at them just to get the full scope of these athletes. So in the first side-by-side picture I could find is the front double bi. Now, part of Mike Sommerfeld's legs are being covered by this security guard's face, but this is a super awesome comparison I was happy to find. Here, I feel that Mike Sommerfeld and Wesley Vissers' arms are a very comparable size to what it looks like in these most recent pictures I was showing. But also, what is shocking me, I would have thought through Mike Sommerfeld's whole career, his legs would have been a crazy strong point. And his legs are good here, but they're not that much better than Wesley Vissers, which is a polar opposite from what we see now in these two guys. Now, I feel like these two guys in muscle size are very comparable at this point in their career, although it does look like at this show specifically, Wesley Vissers was a little more conditioned, and that's what I said with the comparison of the Olympia to the Arnold. But also, I think we saw at the 2024 Olympia, when you got a guy like Haughty and you got a guy like Sampson, and they're super close, it's a coin toss. Sampson's a little bigger, Haughty's a little leaner. They're gonna pick the taller guy. This isn't judging standard, but history repeats itself. And here I would have to give Wesley Vissers that win just because of his conditioning and his size. Okay, so next up, the security guard's gone and we have a side chest pose. Now, Wesley is popping his chest out more. That was something Arnold did. He really pushed his chest out instead of like tensing it up for this side chest. As for Mike Sommerfeld, he's doing more the standard side chest that you see people do. From the side, it looks like Mike Sommerfeld might have the thicker hamstrings, but quads, very similar. And for a tall guy like Wesley, it's harder to fill out those legs. I wish we could make this direct comparison between the two with them hitting the side chest in a similar fashion. But from this picture specifically, it looks like Mike Sommerfeld's chest is very comparable, if not even better than Wesley's. Now, I don't even think you can make that argument anymore. I do think Wesley has the preferred chest over Mike Sommerfeld now, but here, things look very close. I wasn't able to find the scorecards for this show. I looked for at least half an hour scouring Google, and I couldn't find the placings. So if you know the placings in comparison to these two, let me know. Here in the back double bi shot, I feel like I might be able to see a little bit of Wesley Vissers' hamstring separation. He's very oily, he's very shiny, and it's kind of an illusion with this quality of a picture. More lower back striations from Wesley here. He doesn't seem to have the same depth in his back that Mike has, but it's definitely wider. Very similar sized arms, which is giving Mike Sommerfeld his props because he's the shorter guy, but Wesley does seem to be more conditioned here all around. Then we got the back lat spread. Now this show was in open bodybuilding. This was not a classic physique show because classic physique did not exist yet. But back lat spread, very comparable between the two. Side chest has to go to Mike Sommerfeld, but do realize that from this point on, classic physique was created. Wesley Vissers went to get his classic physique pro card, and Mike Sommerfeld went to get his open bodybuilding pro card. So I would expect the superior side tricep to be Mike Sommerfeld. So now we can't take into consideration the side tricep and the back lat spread because those are open bodybuilding poses, which I would probably give both of them to Mike Sommerfeld. But when it comes to the classic physique poses, I give at least 2 of the 3 to Wesley Vissers. Now, this is really the fun thing about Wesley Vissers, is you don't know what to expect. if you would have told people last year, I think Wesley Vissers is going to win the Arnold Classic, they would have said you were smoking crack. It was probably Ramon or Urs show. But here we are with Wesley Vissers winning that show. Although at the 2024 Olympia, it shows that Mike Sommerfeld blew Urs out of the water and almost caught up to Chris. I feel like Chris had quite a bit of distance in the show, and Mike Sommerfeld and Urs were very close. Wesley Vissers beat Urs last year at the Arnold, and Mike Sommerfeld just barely beat Urs at this year. I mean, both these guys beat Urs and Ramon in their last two shows. Now I'd have to say with the 2025 Olympia, we'll have Urs preparing all year for the 2025 Olympia, and same thing with Ramon. And then you'll have somebody like Mike Sommerfeld. He just did a showing where he had like the superhero hair, and then he'll be at the Arnold. And he's doing a lot of shows. So Ramon and Urs will have a lot more time to make improvements in the time that Mike Sommerfeld will. Now, I think Ramon's career is pretty much over. I don't think we'll ever see him as the Mr. Olympia. He has a great physique, but what more can he do with it? I feel like he's kind of maxed out his genetic potential. I think the only thing he can do is get lucky and hope his tan doesn't melt off. As for Urs, I feel like Urs still has some room to grow and some improvements he can make. Very small ones. He's almost to that limit, but he's not there yet, and I think he can still pull off a victory at the next Olympia. But what can I say? I've been saying that about Urs for the past couple years, and here we are. So I think this Arnold Classic showing will all come down to the legs. Mike Sommerfeld posts updates of his physique very frequently, as Wesley does once in a while, but he does not show his legs. So if Wesley put on some size in his legs from the last showing at the Olympia to this showing, I think Wesley's going to take this show in a pretty royal upset. And it's so funny saying the person that won last year would be an upset for winning this year, but I do not think he is the favorite going into this one. So if these guys both bring their ultimate package, just like these two pictures I've been comparing, I think if Wesley brings his legs up, Wesley will win this show. But if they compete as they were in these pictures, Mike Sommerfeld would walk away with it with both the poses. If I was a betting man, I had to bet my life on who's going to win this show, I would put my bets on Mike Sommerfeld winning. But as a fan, whose physique do I prefer and who am I cheering for? I'm cheering for Wesley Vissers. But anyways, guys, that is it for the comparison. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Who do you think is going to walk away with the 2025 Arnold title this year? If you liked the content, subscribe and leave a like. It makes my day. I'm very serious. And if you want to support me even more and get to know me even more, my main platform is Instagram. I post multiple times a day, so you do not want to miss what's going on over there. Anyways, I love you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.